Hi friends, and today we are talking about startups. There's so much of positivity in that word startup. It's almost like bringing up a baby. And yes, in that optimism and positivity, there's so many things that get missed. So today I just want to talk about the basics. We all know funding is important. We all know people are important. But let me just drill down into a few more basics that are really important as you're beginning to plan out your startup. Firstly, what is the objective of your startup? From a business purpose point of view as well as a financial point of view. Is your startup a complement or supplementary to what you're already doing, or is this going to be what you're really betting on and it requires huge amount of your investment as well as their clear financial targets? If it's a small hobby that you can afford to run, then go ahead and do it. But yes, if you want to make it big, there are clear financial targets, then it's time to get really thinking with a pen and paper or a laptop or whatever works for you and make out a detailed plan with a lot of risk analysis and scenarios. That's also something that we'll talk about a little later. But for now, a few more basic considerations. What's your age? How much of a financial arsenal do you have with you? Can you support yourself for the next 3, 4, 5 years if the startup you're planning doesn't really take off that fast? Have you been able to discuss this and lay out a financial plan with your family? And who else is in the game with you? Do you have a co-founder? It's almost impossible to make a startup successful if you don't have someone in it with you. Because startups are not only about marketing and selling or looking at the big picture. You need someone to complement you while you have the big picture. Someone should be out there looking after the details. If you think you're great at marketing, creativity and selling and making that pitch, at the same time you need a balancing force and balancing hand to be looking at the financials, to be looking at the regulatory compliances and so much more. So make sure there is a co-founder with you in the game before you move on. Then let's talk about the next phase, or the time when you actually get down with a pen and paper and start planning your business plan, making a business plan. I would break it into 3 key phases. The first phase being developing of the concept. If it is technology, getting your platform ready, thinking through the concept over there. If it's into manufacturing, your food, your recipes or whatever the product, taking it to a place where it's ready to commercialize. Now this phase itself will take a lot of your time, money, testing and anywhere between 3 to 12 months if not more. So plan it accordingly. During this time, you'll probably not earn a penny, you'll be putting in money and getting your concept tested. Phase 2, testing proof of the pudding. I will never say that right from your phase 1 jump to a scaling up of your project. It's very important for you to proof test your concept. In this stage, you will be doing everything from commercializing it to fine-tuning your model to really understand how is it that you can make this financially sustainable. During the proof concept, you should be able to break even. You should understand what are the levers that you can pull to get it to a 10%, 15% profitability or whatever your target is. And that's when you get ready to pitch to the investors that yes, my concept is successful. I have tested it in 3 cities, 4 cities, 1 state or 2 states, and look, today I'm making money. However, now to make it scalable, I need more money. And that's when you'll be able to get the interest of the investors. And more important than that, you will then be working on a project that's really scalable and sustainable. I can give you a lot of examples. If I talk about my own experience at Philips Healthcare at home, where we started it from an incubator. I was not there when it was in the incubator stage, but I took it at a time when it was getting commercialized. We did do a proof of pudding by first testing it out in 3 to 4 cities. And yes, we had a clear plan that it was getting into a break-even point and then profitable within 8 months. And it's only then that the global business head took notice of us and decided or was interested to make it really scalable for India. The project wasn't taken forward because of a lot of medical legal liabilities and so on. But I'm just giving you an example that even in larger companies, they first test out in a limited market space to make sure they don't burn too much cash. What are the other soft things that are important at each and every stage? I do want to call them off. Agility, which is basically speed. You have to work all of this with a lot of speed. It might sound, oh, I have to just develop the proof of the pudding right now. It's a lot of work, right? It's taking everything to the market, it's selling, it's collecting your cash, it's making sure you're being profitable, it's reaching out to the consumer. In whatever you are doing, you have to work with people who will match your speed and get things done. Adaptability. Whatever you are planning may not work. You might need to tweak your product. If, for example, it's a cake, you might decide, okay, this market works for pineapple cake. I have easy access for pineapples, the cost of pineapple is low and people like it. Well, suddenly the cost of pineapple might shoot up, or suddenly the demand for pineapple might just fall, and if you want to stay in the game of cakes, you might have to quickly switch over to a chocolate cake. I'm taking very simple examples just to highlight the need for adaptability. If I come back to a bigger picture example, you might assume that competition will not take notice of you till you hit a certain size. But if you are doing too well in a test market, competition might notice you much faster than you think and up the game, making it doubly hard for you to succeed. So what are you going to do then? Will you have extra funds to pump in? Thirdly, pruning of the talent. I will talk more about it when I talk about how crucial or critical are people in any organization, and especially for a startup. Pruning of talent is extremely important as you move through different phases of your startup. People who help you develop the concept, of course, are your core team. People who make you a success during the proof of the pilot stage may not be the people. At least I can say 50 to 60% of them will not be the people who will be able to scale up. Not everyone is scalable. Not everyone can run a 100 million business and a $1,000 million business with equal amount of speed or capability. So that's where you will have to have a very transparent discussion with your talent and keep pruning. You will have to keep on evolving your go-to-market commercialization model, changing your ability to invest along with the environment and consumer response. For example, you might decide when you're entering a particular market that you'll only be an e-commerce player. A lot of brands have done that. For example, Mamaearth. They started as only an e-commerce player. Today they are there in general trade. So first, it's about establishing your break-even, ensuring you are profitable in a particular segment, and then devising different strategies to scale up. Lastly, I've said this earlier also, fund management. You need to have adequate cash flow, more than you may need at every stage. So do not be overly optimistic when you're planning your cash flow. You don't want to be stranded or let go of a great business plan and idea that's doing well simply because you run short of money and you don't have enough time to raise extra funds suddenly. Even if you look at some homegrown startups, and there are plenty, not only from the last decade but over the last 40-50 years. And what you'll see over here, they've all started small. They've all demonstrated success in a small way before they've gone and raised funds or expanded into multiple businesses. If you look at Haldiram, it started from a small shop in one city. Today, it's a global chain. If you look at Infosys, again, started from a garage. We all know Mr. Narayan Murthy's story. They all had very humble beginnings. So was Cafe Coffee Day, a small shop in Bangalore, which is now pan-India. We all know about Shehnaz Hussain. She started in a very unique model that was not very prevalent or widely used at her time. She came up with a range and she went for franchise outlets. What a neat and smart way to really grow rapidly by simply training a lot of beauticians and giving them franchisees pan-India. She built a very strong and sustainable distribution model. If we look at the last 10 years, First Cry again was started in a very humble way with very limited offering from a small operating center in Mumbai, and look at how big it is today. Organic India, that's into foods and supplements, small startup from Lucknow. It's a global company today. Byju's we all know, Oyo we know, started by a youngster, again a very unique concept. But what have they done? One thing is in common, they've not been big from day one, they've all started small. They've proved their business is profitable and they've adapted along the way. They've expanded in different ways. They've gone pan-India or tapped into global markets gradually. They've all built professional teams very, very gradually, got the right talent at different points in time to make their business scalable. For today's session, that's it from me. Just the basics of startups, but we'll keep talking about startups and the exciting world and challenges it brings. Thanks a lot.